Hello, everyone. How are you? Good? Great. And welcome to the groundbreaking for the new Sisters in Cinema Media Arts Center. My name is Chloe Herring, and I'm the Business and Development Coordinator here at Sisters in Cinema. Thank you so much for joining us in person and virtually on this very, very special day, a day 30 years in the making. At this time, I want to acknowledge a few people here with us today. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, thank you so much for being here to mark this milestone with us today. 7th Ward Alderman Greg Mitchell, we appreciate your support that helped bring us to this moment. State Representative Curtis Tarver II, are you here today? Well, we wanted to thank you for your dedication to the 25th District. Commissioner Maurice Cox of the City of Chicago Department of Planning and Development, thank you for your devotion to neighborhoods like South Shore. Peter Hawley, Director of the Illinois Film Office, thank you for shining a light on the opportunities in this state. And Kwame Omoaku, Director of the Chicago Film Office, thank you for making the city attractive and supportive to media makers. Tanya Trice, the Executive Director of the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, Sisters in Cinema looks forward to continuing our work with you. And I want to give a special shout out to our board members with Sisters in Cinema as well. Mary Morton, thank you so much. And Christina Smith, thank you so much for being with us today. And to the foundations and organizations that have supported us over the years, all of our friends, individual donors, and members of our organization, thank you so much for your continued support. We're here today to celebrate an amazing milestone and are so pleased to have each of you with us today. Thank you. Now I have the pleasure of introducing you all to Zara Baker, who will treat us to an original performance. Zara?
Good afternoon. When I say it's time to turn the soil, you say it's time, it's time, it's time to turn the soil. 2 times, it's time, it's time, it's time to turn the soil. All right, that's your part. The earth is layer upon layer of all that has existed, all of life itself. Maya Angelou said, the horizon leans forward, offering you space to place new steps of change. Let us turn the soil toward the horizon together. It's time to turn the soil. It's time, it's time, it's time to turn the soil. It's time, it's time, it's time to turn the soil. May the rushing of the waters and the whispers of the wind dance with these new steps of change. May this great turning of the soil awaken our collective best and unleash our Black girl magic. It's time to turn the soil. It's time, it's time, it's time to turn the soil. It's time, it's time, it's time to turn the soil. May we engage the brilliance of our world that keeps us turning toward a liberated humanity. It is time to turn the soil. It's time, it's time, it's time to turn the soil. It's time, it's time. It's time to turn. Grace Lee Boggs said, as we transform ourselves, we transform the world. Here we stand solidly in our purpose, ready to turn toward transformation. It's time to turn the soil. It's time, it's time, it's time to turn the soil. It's time, it's time. it's time to turn the soil. We give sanctuary for the visionaries yet to be realized, the stories yet to be unearthed, and the voices longing to be heard. We stand together in this present moment, building a world where all Black girls, all women, and all gender non-conforming media makers and storytellers can create and thrive. We turn the soil today because it's time. It's time to turn the soil. It's time. It's time. It's time to turn the soil. Oh yeah, it's time. It's time. It's time to turn the soil. Keep it going. It's time. It's time. It's time to turn the soil. Oh, it's time. It's time to turn the soil. And so it is. So it is. And so it is.
Hello. My name is Dr. Yvonne Welbin, and I'm the founder and CEO of Sisters in Cinema. It is my pleasure to welcome Mayor Lightfoot, distinguished guests, and audience members joining us here and virtually on this historic day, marking an exciting new chapter in the 30-year history of the Sisters in Cinema project. Thank you for joining us today. Sisters in Cinema began in 1991 as a research project. I was in graduate school and I only knew the name of one Black woman filmmaker, Julie Dash. I wanted to find more, and one of my professors told me, perhaps you're the second one. Right? You knew that was not true. So I went looking for my Sisters in Cinema. It's a project that started off as building a database. Then I built a website in 1997 to crowdsource this information. I wrote my doctoral dissertation on the history of Black women filmmakers, and I called that Sisters in Cinema. I made a feature documentary in 2003, and that was called Sisters in Cinema. And all this time, I was building what is perhaps one of the largest archives of Black women media makers' work in this accidental archive here in Chicago. So our city is home to probably, I think it's one of the largest ones. In 2014, we became a nonprofit. And today, we are here to celebrate our biggest and boldest iteration of this project. We are here for the groundbreaking of the Sisters in Cinema Media Arts Center here in South Shore. I grew up in South Shore, and I grew up in South Shore. I currently live in South Shore, and I'm so happy to be bringing this project as a deep investment in our community. And this project is made possible largely because of the City of Chicago's Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. We are bringing jobs. We're bringing learning opportunities, and we're also creating a space for healing. Through our work, we are creating a pipeline for those who wish to work in the creative industries. We envision a world where all Black women, girls, and gender non-conforming media makers and storytellers have an opportunity to create and thrive. Sisters in Cinema is being created in partnership with our community here in South Shore. I want to thank our funders, including the Jonathan Logan Family Foundation, I'm losing my voice, the Ford Foundation, the Fields Foundation, the MacArthur Foundation, our board members, our program participants, our general contractor. We've got Vicente Ruiz Martinez here. We also have Victoria Wilson, and we also have, is Yorley here? Yorley Huff. So all three of our general contractors, they came together to make this project possible. I also want to thank our architects, Landon, Bone, Baker, and Associates, and I want to thank the hundreds of individuals who have donated and played such an important part in bringing this vision to reality. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, go ahead. Next up will be Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
There you go. Thank you, Yvonne, for all of your hard work. I've known Yvonne for a long time, probably longer than either of us want to know. But I told her before this began, I'm just so proud of her. Her journey that is culminating in this moment is a journey of love of city, love of art and cinema, and being really focused and determined on something that's so incredibly important. You heard her kind of walk through how she started with this question in graduate school that has now led to this moment. And this is a great thing for our city. And this is really what artists do, right? They are the creative, innovative engines. They start with something that's a germ of an idea, and they pursue it to its fullest capacity. And again, I'm just so proud of you, and really will be grateful when this building is open and we can come back, enjoy it in all of its splendor. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. And by the way, one of the most iconic buildings and one of the most iconic rooms anywhere in the city of Chicago, in the Great South Shore. Let me begin by acknowledging the other folks who are here with us today. Alderman Greg Mitchell, Department of, you can clap. Department of Planning and Development Commissioner Maurice Cox, South Shore Chamber of Commerce Executive Director Tanya Trice, Illinois Film Director Peter Harley, and Chicago Film Office Director Kwame Amaku. Even though this weather has prevented us from being out on 75th Street, we are still here to celebrate this official groundbreaking of the Sisters in Cinema Media Arts Center, one of our city's newest investments in what is a phenomenal arts community across the city. Despite the challenges of this past year, our arts community continues to enrich the cultural landscape in our city as it has done down through the ages. Once completed in September of this year, Sisters in Cinema Arts Center will further enrich our cultural landscape by centering and celebrating Black girls, women, and gender nonconforming media makers, and reflecting the diversity, creativity, and shared history of our residents. This building will have gallery, classroom, conference spaces, a 45-seat theater, and an editing and computer lab. Sisters in Cinema will be providing programming that will be developed through community input. It's designed to educate, raise visibility, and support our communities, and be offered to the South Shore community and Chicago-based industry professionals. Get this, folks, free of charge. As a result, these resources will create more access to opportunity for inspiring creatives from underrepresented backgrounds and make our arts community even more diverse and inclusive than it is today, helping support and inspiring the next great artists, the next great Lena Waithe, Shonda Rhimes, and countless other talented Chicago artists. And speaking of diversity and inclusion, Sisters in Cinema also embodies our citywide effort to ensure Chicago's economic recovery from COVID-19 is strong, sustainable, and above all else, supportive of our Black and brown communities, businesses, and organizations. As outlined in our COVID-19 Task Force report, the first ever COVID-19 recovery plan for any American city, investments in our film industry will be and are a key pillar of our recovery. Sisters in Cinema will help grow a film ecosystem and talent base right here in Chicago, all while giving residents from historically excluded groups the opportunity to have resources they need to find success and entry into the industry. In addition, Sisters in Cinema received a grant in 2017 as a part of the first ever cohort of our Neighborhood Opportunity Fund program, which helps to strengthen commercial corridors on our south, southwest, and west sides by providing commercial and cultural projects with funds generated from downtown development. The program also helps creatives and entrepreneurs from underrepresented backgrounds gain access to the capital, mentorship, and other resources that they need to get their projects off the ground. Now, I will tell you that throughout the time that I was campaigning, I heard a lot about the NOF program. And good idea and concept, but when in execution, many recipients told us over and over again that they were frequently not able to access the matching funds. So I determined that we were going to fix that, and we have. And let me tell you a little bit about what we've done. Since I became mayor, the program has been updated to allow grants to cover a majority, if not all, of the project's costs and provide finalists with access to technical advisors as they navigate project financing. Two things that they told us were critically important: make the matching funds real grants and provide us with support for the application and on the back end so that we can actually realize our dreams. We need to be about the business of setting up these finalists for success. Additionally, the NOF program supports our signature investment development initiative, Invest Southwest, which leverages the power of public-private sector partnerships to enhance the economic vibrancy of historically underserved communities on our south and west sides. So once Sisters in Cinema is completed, it will further strengthen and uplift our South Shore community, one of the 10 neighborhoods we prioritize through Invest Southwest. And one of the other things that I hope, Yvonne, this center will do is really provide a focal point for our young people. You know that we have a vibrant, thriving, creative community among our youth. They need to see what they can be, and this center will give them the opportunity to do just that. So I want to thank again and congratulate Yvonne and her entire Sisters in Cinema team for officially breaking ground on this incredible NOF-backed project. I'm excited to see how it develops and blossoms and blooms, and I'm sure that we're going to be hearing great things about this center and mark this day as another milestone on our journey for making sure that Black cultural life has real relevance and meaning in our city. So thank you very much, one and all.
Next up, we'll have our 7th Ward Alderman, Greg Mitchell.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. All right, so actually, I want to, before I start talking about Yvonne, Mayor Lightfoot actually touched on a couple of things that I need to acknowledge. She talked about how that Neighborhood Opportunity Fund evolved. I've been a part of the Neighborhood Opportunity since its inception, and I had a lot of projects fail, but because of the points that she came in and fine-tuned, we're able to now witness the birth of Sisters in Cinema. So Mayor Lightfoot, I have to take time to acknowledge that right there. Thank you for that. Because it was extremely frustrating to see an awarding of businesses and then it actually not coming to fruition. So I'm very grateful about that. All right. Yvonne. I have 2 of them, guys. I got her and her sister. And they have been vibrant catalysts. They have been just joys to work with in the community. I am so proud of her. 2017, it has been a long journey for her to get to this point. I have very selfish reasons. I need her to be successful because she will serve as a catalyst for one of my most challenged corridors, 75th. So 2310 East 75th Street is on the map as of today. So she already knows she has my support. She already knows she has the support of my office. When she calls, they move for her. So we're going to keep on giving you what you need to be successful, to get to the point in, I think, September, and then beyond. So once again, I am so proud of you. So proud of you. I'm gonna call your sister when I get in the car and talk to her. But with that said, how did the lady say? It's time to turn over some soil. It's time. 。  Yeah. 。  . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 。 . 。 . 。 。 。 。 . 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 . 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 . 。 。 . 。 . 。
Thank you, Zoe. I'm sorry, Peyton. Peyton. Peyton was one of our alums from our newsroom program.
Yes.
We're very happy to have her. At this time, I want to call a couple of people up for the groundbreaking. So Commissioner Cox, if you could come to the front. Kwame Amaku, if you could come. Peter Hawley, we'd love to have you as well. Tanya Trice, Chris Smith, and Mary Morton, please.
Okay, happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Mayor. There's several about CTU, but why don't we start with Karen Lewis?
Yeah.
That would probably be the best place to start. And while you weren't mayor, while she was CTU leader, obviously you must have known Karen Lewis. And what effect should the death of Karen Lewis have on CTU vote on reopening schools?
Well, let me say this. First and foremost, I extend my sincere condolences to Karen Lewis's family, her friends, and many people throughout the city who were close to her and whose lives and careers were deeply affected by her. I think the legacy of Karen Lewis will live on and resonate in our city for a long time to come, and rightfully so. I had the pleasure of meeting and sitting down with her once, and I just remember it so vividly and feeling like I came out of that experience. I'm very lucky to have been in her presence. So this is a sad day, a day of grieving for sure, but also I think because she left such a strong legacy, it's also an opportunity to really celebrate her life.
Might her death have an impact as the CTU leadership meets tonight?
You know, I can't speculate about that, and I won't. Again, I think this is a time for us to have incredible reverence for Karen, who was really brilliant, smart. You know, everything that I've heard about her, and her name actually has come up quite a bit in the last couple weeks about how she handled things, and just was able to really be a fierce advocate for teachers, but also had a great love of the city. I'm sure that as people gather, her life will be present and on their minds, but I can't speculate about whether that will have an effect on the ultimate vote. My hope is obviously because we have crossed so many rivers to get to this point, that we will be able to move forward.
A couple of questions now from others. One of them is, after you spoke yesterday, CTU made it clear there is no agreement, as they see it, just a tentative framework that is dependent on the vote of their membership.
And that's all true. As we said yesterday, it's a tentative agreement. The CTU has a specific process by which ratification has to come. We're hoping for that ratification, but that's why we styled it, because it is a tentative agreement.
And with that vote likely to begin either late tonight or tomorrow, is there a message you would like to direct to teachers and also to parents who want to send their children back but are worried about a continued back and forth and maybe it might not happen?
Well, look, I think that two big takeaways for me from this process are, one, that we need to create a process of healing. This has been a very tough process for everybody in the CPS ecosystem, notably our students and their parents. I heard and continue to hear from many of them who believe that their voices were drowned out and that they weren't heard. And the commitment that I've made to them, and the commitment I'm happy to say publicly, is I will do everything I can to make sure that they have a seat at the table on anything that relates to their education and the education of their children. So that's issue one. We have to create a process for healing. The other thing I think we also have to do is talk about the recovery for our children and young people in the city. You know, we talk about recovery in the context of the economic recovery for small businesses, recovery for our economy. But our young people and our students have been deeply impacted by COVID-19, not just in terms of educational achievement, although that's a pretty profound impact there, but also in terms of their social, emotional learning. So part of what we need to do in moving forward is commit ourselves to making sure that we are forcefully articulating a set of values around the recovery of our students and our young people. So those are the two big things that I take from this experience with getting schools reopened.
And one more on schools for Amy Jacobson. Wants to know about there's only 3 weeks left in the winter season in sports. Time is against the thousands of CPS high school athletes who really want to play basketball, swim, and cheer. Why hasn't Janice Jackson signed off on starting sports when the suburbs and the rest of the state are playing?
Well, that's not really our call. Obviously, we're going to follow the guidance of the Illinois State Board of Education, but also the Illinois High School Association. We've been anxiously waiting for further guidance from them. As a unrepentant sports fan myself, I'd like to see kids get back. There is some loosening of the guidelines to let some non-contact sports happen, but that, as far as I know, we haven't seen anything that's specific to, for example, high school basketball. So I'd like to see us move in that direction, but the state really controls the play, no pun intended, on that issue.
But the suburbs are playing.
Say it again?
The suburbs are playing sports.
They are playing some sports. I'm not aware that they're playing basketball and other contact sports. And we're starting to get that geared up here in Chicago, but I thought the question was really specific to things like high school basketball. I'm not aware of that happening. I've been watching it pretty closely, but if there is a pathway as allowed by the state, then we will start looking into that ourselves.
All right, soon, like maybe this week, maybe.
Look, I'm anxious to get kids back engaged in any physical activity. I said to my daughter and one of her friends this morning, we got to get you guys back out on the court.
All right, police reform, several questions on that. One asking, are you satisfied with police reform and transparency efforts based on the requirements of the consent decree?
What I will say is this. From the very beginning of the consent decree, that really began under the last administration, there just wasn't enough of seriousness of purpose about it. And I think dug a big hole, both in terms of meeting the consent decree requirements, but also winning the legitimacy and faith of the community that has been clamoring for reform and accountability. I think we took some big steps forward over the course of the summer and the fall with new leadership leading this effort. We're not going to be satisfied until we take even more steps on this journey. But I get a weekly update on the progress. I weigh in because this is something I care deeply about personally, and I think that we are finally moving in the right direction, but understanding that we've got a lot more to do, not the least of which is to establish credibility in our reform efforts, and I'm determined to make sure that we do that.
All right, CBS 2, Dana Kozlov is asking the mayor, the city is going to court tomorrow to try and fight the release of 50 years of police misconduct complaints that were closed. Considering continued talk of transparency, why is the city fighting this?
Well, I think that the question oversimplifies the issues that are at stake in that litigation, which I'm very familiar with, but I will follow my normal practice and not talk about ongoing litigation. We have been very transparent. We put 5 or 6 years worth of CR files out. We gave them to the plaintiff in that case. We're continuing to work on a process to go back even further. So there's no lack of transparency, but what's being requested in that case is literally decades worth of information that's all on paper, that's not digitized, and it will take us years if that's ultimately what the court orders. Now, fundamentally, and again, this didn't happen on my watch, what happened in the underlying case where many administrations ago of the Chicago Police Department just flat out failed to answer a FOIA request, that's not a thing, meaning that's not acceptable on my watch. So more work to be done there, but I won't comment further since this is an active piece of litigation.
All right, several on indoor dining. Restaurant Coalition asking, many are wanting to know, especially in light of Valentine's Day weekend ahead, and the positivity rate is more in a better spot.
Yes.
Will you consider increasing indoor dining capacity to 50%?
We are working on providing a notification for later this week that will address some of those issues for sure.
What signal does that send? Do you believe there will be more dining than the 25% capacity right now?
I believe that we will be issuing some further guidance on that issue later this week.
And I see you smiling. People are going to assume that means more people inside restaurants.
Look, I've said this many, many times. Our restaurants have been extraordinarily hard hit. Restaurants, bars, our hospitality industry in general. Valentine's weekend is one of the few bright spots for the restaurant industry over the course of the first quarter, which is a tough time for them. January, February are typically be down. There's ground to be made up. I'm very well aware of that. We're in daily conversations with the leading trades for the restaurants. This is something that we spent some time talking about over the course of the weekend, and I don't want to get ahead of the announcement that we'll make later this week.
On public monuments from Heather Sharon, the commission you appointed to review the monuments for racial healing has identified 40 that are problematic. When will those monuments be identified and recommendations made? Are you still committed to putting the Columbus statues back on display?
Such an easy set of questions. I've got to get a full readout from the list of recommendations from the commission, and once I do that, we'll be making decisions about the entire landscape for monuments and memorials across the city.
All right, Southeast Side residents are on their 5th day of a hunger strike, calling on the health department to deny the permit for South Side recycling. Does the mayor have comment on the strike, and do you intend to meet with the strikers to discuss their demands?
Look, I recognize that that facility evokes a lot of emotions, and we have heard them loud and clear. The Department of Public Health and other city departments that are involved are making sure that we are listening to what we're hearing from the entirety of residents. Some are very vocal, others have other sentiments about that facility. We've had a very robust public engagement process around this, and we're going to continue to make sure that we're reaching out and listening, but also obviously following the law and holding the facility to an appropriately high level of standards regarding air quality and other environmental concerns.
Just one last one. Lisa Morrison Butler, I understand, has resigned. Why? And does it give the impression of more people leaving your administration?
No. If you look at her her note to the larger community, she's tired. She's had a very tough run. She's had some personal health issues that I think, as these things happen, when you face those, you refocus and you think about what's important. She came to me some weeks ago and indicated that she really felt like it was time for her to step down. Lisa's a warrior. Her job is very difficult. It is truly 24/7, and she has decided that it's in her best interest and that of her families for her to step back and take some time and look for an opportunity that isn't as physically demanding on her, given the journey that she's had with her own health challenges. So you have to respect that. She's been a phenomenal commissioner, big shoes to fill. She'll be greatly missed. But you have to give people their due. They've got to think about, and I think this pandemic has really forced all of us to think about what's most important in our lives. How are we spending the precious time that we have on this earth? And I think Lisa has done that and made a decision that's right for her, and I respect that. And we have already begun a search for the next commissioner.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay.
The feed went out. I just want you to know.
Yeah.
People are asking about it.
Okay. Thank you. I think you got a question. Thank you.